got to stand up strong. Ain't the truth about themselves to understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way. I know we can find a way to stand up, stand up, stand up.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. My name is Lee Peterson. Today we're talking about Judge Clarence Thomas. Some of you may have heard of him and some may have not. Those that have not, I can't imagine why. You must have been on a rock somewhere. So what we're going to do is show you his picture. This is Judge Clarence Thomas. The thing that I like about Judge Clarence Thomas is that he have shown America that there's two points of view within the black community. For a long time, we have been considered to be liberal thinking blacks, and that we have all thought alike, ate alike, slept alike, and did the same thing. I appreciate that about him. Today, my guests are Frederick Davison II, the author of The Black Thoroughbred, Dennis Schutzman, LA Sentinel reporter, Earl Hutchinson, right, Earl? Hutchinson, the author of The Nugget of Black America, Joel Woodert. He is the director of marketing of Bond, which is Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. I want to welcome my guests. Let's welcome my guests. Thank you. Dennis, we're going to start with you. You said that Clarence Thomas is not the right person for the black community now, and that no black people agree with his nomination.
Well, I didn't say that he's not the right person for the black community. He is black, and we take everybody that comes into the fold. I don't think that he is the right person to serve on the Supreme Court, simply because, in my opinion, he does not really understand what black life has been all about for the last 370 years. As a jurist, however, he probably will be no better or no worse than anyone else that sits on the Supreme Court.
I hear that a lot. What do you mean by he don't understand what black life has been about?
Well, he talks of stuff that he got where he was because of self-help. I don't see anybody within eyesight of me that hadn't gotten where they had gotten behind self-help. I think that when he disparages or downplays the role that affirmative action has had recently in helping black people get where they had never been before, I think he's very wrong. I think that when he criticizes his own sister because she had to, for a short period of time, be on welfare in order to take care of his aunt, I thought that was pretty low. He shouldn't have ought to done that. And just as a political thinker, I think that he fails to really understand what black people have been through for the last 370 years. That's my personal opinion.
What do you say to that, Earl?
Well, there's several problems with that. Number one, I do agree, I always say a disclaimer,
Right.
I do agree that in terms of affirmative action, in terms of education programs, the role of the federal government, and also in terms of the whole outlook on gender rights, I have problems with Judge Thomas's position. In fact, I'm very critical. We might even say I'm 180 degrees opposed to many of his views. However, I'm still for the confirmation.
Right.
Why? I disagree with Dennis. I think he is a very, very black man. I don't know who Dennis has been looking at, but I don't know how much black.
I didn't say he wasn't black. I
I'm
said
not
I
talking about
accept him
color.
as being
I'm not
black.
talking about color. I'm talking about more than that. I'm also talking about his experience. If you listen very closely to the hearings, Judge Thomas made it very, very clear. This man came up the hard way in Georgia, in the South. He suffered much of the, matter of fact, his existence, his history, personal history, to me reflects the brutality of the Southern experience within this person. So I'm saying there's no way you can deny the man's blackness and his experience, number one. Number two, I think his class background. The man didn't come in with a golden spoon in his mouth.
Right.
He came in from a poverty background. I don't think that you can just dismiss that and say there's no sensitivity there. I believe that. Number three, the reason I'm for his confirmation is because his age. I think there is a capacity to change in the future. Who can say there isn't? There's a fourth reason. Bottom line, who else? Let's be realistic. This is a Republican president, a conservative administration. For better or for worse, whether you like this man's views or not that sits in the White House, he does have the right to pick who he wants to, and he's not going to pick a Thurgood Marshall. So we might as well just forget that. And this is a seat on this court that's an opportunity for African Americans. And I have to say, the reality is we can be idealistic if we want to and say we like another Thurgood Marshall, but this breed comes along once in a lifetime. I say this, if you don't get this seat right now with the capacity to change, sensitivity, color, you're going to lose it for another generation or two. One other thing too, Jesse, too, and I think you made the point too. Who said we can't be black and conservative?
That's right.
Who said that?
Right.
Who said that? Whether we agree or disagree, we have the right to have all shades and reflection of opinion. Why do we as a people have to be straitjacketed into one position? The Jewish people aren't, the Asians aren't, the Italians aren't, the Irish. They have the full political spectrum.
You know, for years and years, we have not had the right to do that, though. Whenever a black man or woman rose up from poverty or began to really come out of this bound that we're in, they've been called white.
May I follow up on something?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, the good doctor is right in many respects, but we do have the right to have conservatives. We do have the right to have communists. We have the right to have anything we want in the black community. We don't have to necessarily accept second best. Jews will support Jews, but if any Jew comes out against Israel, they will not get on the Supreme Court, pure and simple. Plain, end of discussion. I personally, again, feel, you know, as black as he is, God bless him, and he came up the hard way, God bless him for that, too. I think that he is way out of bounds when it comes to relating to how black people think, and you never heard him say that he came up the rough side. You heard that from other people.
But I've heard him talk about it, too. Let me ask Frederick. Frederick, you said that Judge Thomas was too white, that he didn't represent what a black thoroughbred should represent, which is your book. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'd just like to say first, you know, that's what's wrong. We have a lot of talk shows, and they talk about a lot of things like these two gentlemen have talked about, but we need some answers. See, I agree with Thomas when he say we need to get off welfare. I said in my book, welfare the worst thing that ever happened to us, and we do need to get off of it. But in order for us to get off of welfare and turn our lives around, we must have a formula. See, welfare is not our problem. We got a big old tree worldwide, and it got a lot of problems. Right. Welfare is just a broke limb on this tree. If we're gonna straighten welfare out, we gotta go to the root. The root is the only thing that can send the message up to the tree. But Thomas, the reason I say Thomas is not black, see, when I wrote this book, I came up on welfare. My mama had me when she was 13 years old. And we got sit out in public housing twice. I went to prison. I was a career criminal from 6 to 26. I went to prison, learned myself how to read and write. Right. I got out, wrote this book. My sister's a doctor, and I raised her. And she read in the back where I put this in this book. She said, "Why did you put this in here? We were never on welfare." I said, "What do you mean? Public housing always been on welfare." I said, "You ashamed that you was on welfare." But this is the point I'm trying to make. Once we get out of welfare, once we get prosperous, once we get an education, we no longer identify with black. We become more white than ever before.
But what is being black? I don't understand
being
that.
black,
I mean,
you know,
let me just make this. Judge Thomas speak of character. He speak of principles. He speak of working hard and earning your way.
He speak
of dealing with whole society in the right manner. I mean, is that black or is that white?
No,
I don't understand. What do you mean by
but
being black and being white?
being black is, see, they got, first of all, that woman right there, she's the mother of all creation. She's the greatest woman in the world. Thomas is not black anymore. He has, see, wait.
What is black?
Black is being black in mind, body, and soul.
And what is that? How do we know if we're that? Do we have to be on poverty to do that? Or,
But,
I don't understand. Because I hear that a lot.
But if you let me explain, I'll tell you. See, first of all, Thomas, see, when you move out of the ghetto and we can graduate from every college at the first of the class. We can be excellent in education, but if we don't have an excellent culture, we cannot become black. Thomas is not black, he's trying to be white. He married a white woman trying to be white through his babies. I mean, and don't forget about that. Let's go back to history. Doesn't history have all the proofs to success and failure? Right? Wait, does it?
But I don't see a standard of being black or being white, though. And I think that's confusing to you.
But if you don't, if any race that ever led the world at any given time had one thing in common, all the way from the Ethiopians to the Japanese this very day, they had one thing in common. They thought that their race was superior to all other races. That's what makes leaders. Until we believe that we are great, see, we don't believe in ourselves. That's why we're on welfare slavery.
Let me ask Joel. Joel, you're in favor of Clarence Thomas confirmation, is that right?
Yes.
What do you think about what has been said about being black and he's not black enough, or he don't represent the black people? What's your point of view on that?
Well, I'm not sure at this point that there is such a thing as black identity. And if you say black identity, I think you have to qualify it, because we all have our ethnicity. But how far that is supposed to represent the person in terms of the marketplace and in terms of the society and the global economy that we live in, I think is something to be looked at. I'm not sure what it means to be black.
It means to be black and
hang on a second. But see, if you're going to say that he's not black enough.
I didn't say he wasn't black enough. I said he wasn't black at all.
Okay, all right. He's not black at all. Well, let's try to define then what blackness is.
Thinking.
Let's try to define what blackness is. Now, here's a man that grew up in Georgia, where his mother had 3 children.
That's his condition.
Hang on a second. And his father left his mother.
But you're talking about his condition. I'm talking about his culture.
I'm trying to define. I'm trying to find out what you're talking about in terms of being black. Now, here's a man that his father deserted his mother when he was around 2 years old. She was pregnant with a 3rd child. His mother had to raise him, earning $15 a week, and she could not support him. The house burnt down. They went to live with his grandfather and his grandmother. His mother had to continue to work. She then later met another black man who said, I don't want to be involved with a woman that has any kids. Okay, now we're talking about being black now. So here it is. Hang on a second. The point I'm trying to make is I think that Thomas really has gone not only from growing up in the ghetto, and he also going into the seminaries and being taught by the nuns, and then going on to Holy Cross, and then going on to Yale, and then having married a black woman and eventually divorced her and met someone who was white, conservative, was a writer and so forth, and a lawyer, and they had a lot in common and fell in love and married this woman. So I think that this man represents more. He can see things from both sides. He can see things from the point of view of having gone through blackness. He can see it from a societal point of view.
He made it, and everybody can make it.
And I think
that's what he represents.
His sitting on the court. Hang on a second. His sitting on the court at this point gives a very, very broad perspective, because he can then identify not only with black but also with white. And I think it's important.
I'd like to come in on this. I'd like to come in on this.
Go ahead, Earl.
Okay, let me just move it a little bit forward, because I think we're getting stuck on this. Who's black and who isn't black? Because, like beauty, it's an eye of the beholder. Yeah. What may be black to you may not be black to somebody else, and that's where the problem is.
Let me just say this, Earl, because I want to really, because what happened is, the point of this show is to enlighten the young blacks. Okay. And this notion about you're not black enough because you succeed in life, it's really destroyed our community.
Well, okay, let me come back to that point, but I want to just say one other thing on top of that. In an article in the LA Times, when I said I support the confirmation of Judge Thomas, there was one line which kind of strikes me in listening to this. I made the point, Judge Thomas, whether you think he's black enough or not black enough, white enough or not white enough, I have to tell you this. When this guy comes off the Supreme Court, and he will be confirmed, when he comes off the Supreme Court, takes his judicial robes off and all of his splendor and drives through the street of any city in this country, his behind can be beat by a white policeman. He can be denied services. He can be called NIG like anybody else. My point is, we have to be realistic. No matter what his political philosophy or other people see him, white society still says They don't make these little fine lines and gradations between this black person and that black person. You're all the same to them. Now, coming back to your point, about the blackness, that's precisely the point. When I picked up this week's edition of Newsweek, okay, I saw Judge Thomas. I'm going to your question about black youth.
Okay.
I saw Judge Thomas on the cover of Newsweek, and I have to tell you, if you know anything about media stereotyping, the only thing we ever see in the press when you come to African Americans, handcuffs, drugs, alcohol, some kind of negative stereotype. And here's a proud man on the cover of Newsweek, suit and tie. You can't tell me that a young African American looking at this man, Supreme Court Justice Thomas, there's got to be some kind of identification and pride. It does something for us. It does something for us.
Let me make a point.
Yeah.
Can I make one point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Being poor and all that is fine. Those are not prerequisites for being on the Supreme Court. Now, if all we're talking about now is potential, he has the potential to do the right thing. Can anybody here, and take as much time as you want, show me where he's done anything? Are there anybody in the room
Yes,
to
I
be
can.
proud of?
Yes, I can. Two things.
Okay.
Two things I can. Specific things.
And dealing with the legal standpoint.
Let's get 2 points.
Yes, I can. Two specific things he did. In fact, I did not know this because I listened very carefully to the hearings. I was all ready to buy into the Judge Thomas, the guy is no good, he's just a reactionary and all that. But I noticed one thing in the testimony, that when he was on the Board of Trustees at Holy Cross, I did not know this, he fought the hardest for complete divestiture from South Africa. I had no idea of that. Second thing.
But he sits on a board that supports and works for South Africa.
No. I'm talking about when he was on the board of directors of Holy Cross University. He got the university to divest from corporations that invest in South Africa. I think that's very specific. Second thing is when he was chairman of the EEOC, there's been a lot of heat about how he's just did nothing in there and torpedoed things. Did you realize that his agency had the highest percentage of blacks, Asians, Latinos, women on his staff that he personally hired? He personally promoted affirmative action within the EEOC. I had no idea of that.
And what was his record?
His record, in terms of hiring, was a very good record.
But his record in terms of enforcing the law, what was his record?
Okay.
We're talking about a legal person now.
What we're going to have to do is take a break. We'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about his legal records, all right? We're going to take a break and I'll be right back.
Let's talk about that.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Jesse Peterson. We're talking about the nomination of Judge Clarence Thomas. And before we go to Frederick, I want to remind you, if you'd like to be a guest on the Jesse Peterson show, you can call the office at 213-759-3844. That's 213-759-3844. And also, I'd like to thank you for your phone calls and letters of the shows that you've seen in the past. I appreciate your support. Frederick, just before we went on break, you said you had a comment you wanted to make?
Right. See, Thomas, I'm proud of Thomas too because he's part of the family. But he said we need to be off welfare, man. We losing a whole generation of people on welfare. The reason we are on welfare and the reason we were in slavery is because when they brought us from Africa, they stripped us of our culture. That kept us on welfare and on slavery. The only way we're gonna get up off welfare, man, and become leaders is get our culture back. Go back and get our African heritage. All groups have that. We cannot make it to the top without it.
What do you mean get our culture back? We need to go back to Africa and get something?
No. Right here in America, you can be anywhere. Jews are here. They have their culture.
Okay, but when you say we need to learn how...
For one thing, we are not proud. That little boy over there, he's not proud of himself. You have to motivate a kid before he can learn. Give me a good example. They said big lips and big noses were ugly because we had them. Everything we had, they degraded it. Then they turned around and told the truth that these big lips and big noses were pretty. What Michael Jackson gonna do now? He cut his nose off to be like white America because they say that was what was beautiful.
But is
what I'm saying
like a culture or something else?
This is what I'm trying. The point I'm trying to make here. This man is in a position to make legal laws. Legal laws are what determine the way people live. If this man say, I made it out of the ghetto, and he doesn't sympathize with us because he don't have a black culture, then he make things hard for us. We don't need welfare, but you can't just take it away from us just like this. That's just like if you go to the doctor and have an operation on your heart, and the doctor cuts you open and then sew you off and just leave you, before you get strong, you'll die.
But don't you think that welfare is destroying us and making us
It
lazy and making us
is, but
dependent?
the only way we're going to get off welfare is become proud and strong. You know, last year we spent $300 billion with someone else. How can we do something for the ghetto and the reason we spend it with other people because we don't believe in each other. Oh, I ain't going to that black doctor because he can't do nothing. I'm going to me, a white doctor.
That's
the
true, but-
culture that's missing.
But that's
You
not,
don't-
that's coming from something else besides culture.
But
you know what I'm
Jesse,
saying?
they put us in welfare, and the reason they kept us on slavery because they told us we weren't anything, right? And that worked because we still believe, right? They took 10 girls, black girls, to the doll store, 4 years old, gave them a choice. All 10 of them picked the white doll.
Okay,
we
let me
still
just say
believe
this,
that
Frederick.
we're
I want to
gonna
ask
be
Dennis.
successful.
Let me say this. I want to ask Dennis about the legal aspect of Clarence Thomas. When I used to be a man that thought black and act black, it was what I thought was black. But as long as I thought black and act that way, I was a poor man. I was shy, immature, and didn't develop at all.
Oh,
but once I
man,
began to see where my insecurity came from and overcome that was within me,
You mean to
my
believe
whole
in
life.
yourself
But
that's
it-
insecure?
But I believe in myself, but not in a black self. I just have.
But you are
my-
black. You
but
can't- you
it
can't
don't- I
escape
know,
that.
but what you don't realize, it don't take away from being black because I have security now.
No, but you got to have a culture. Why have all the races that rule the world thought their culture was superior? That
Let
don't
me
mean
just
anything.
ask Dennis about the legal aspect of Clarence Thomas. You want to make a statement about that?
Yeah. He is being placed on the Supreme Court, which is a very glorified city council. In law, all laws are based on some kind of legal precedent, where judges, usually single judges, will make a ruling based upon the evidence that's presented. Supreme Courts, like any other appellate court, either backs up the precedent or overturns the precedent. Okay, they don't particularly make new law. Okay, they have to get a consensus, 5-4-6-3. So him being on the Supreme Court's not going to make a whole lot of difference if you really look at it like that. But as a judge, as a lawyer, one would be hard pressed to show where he has done anything that's been memorable in terms of setting any kind of legal precedent. In Missouri, he overturned a case or helped to overturn a case that allowed these license plates with your name on it, these personalized license plates. Well, you know, bully for him. When he was at EEOC, and just to correct you on that, people who work for EEOC are federal government employees. You can't fire them unless they rape 14-year-old paraplegic women or something like that. He only had 90 positions he could bring in himself. So those black folks and those Hispanics were working there already. Number 3, he let 13,000 civil rights cases lapse. So that doesn't engender to me any kind of goodwill in terms of him being on the court.
What do you think?
Okay, what I say is, actually, this came not from me, but from Judge Thomas during the testimony. I don't think anybody challenged him on his actual hiring record because he was trying to make the point then that I went out and I actually recruited the best, and I also looked at the diversity issue too in terms of my staff. Let me remind you something, Dennis. You're talking about legal decisions and precedents. The Supreme Court does, in fact, make law. I mean, that's a myth. They do make law.
By doing what?
They make law
By either overturning
by
or
overturning and their
setting.
interpretations too. And I think what's happened with the court has gone way out of balance to the other side. And you're right, Thomas is not going to make any difference. So I guess you could turn it around and say, if he's not going to make any difference, why not put him on the court? Just as easy as you could say why he shouldn't be on the court. Let me remind you of something, back on this legal precedent thing. Earl Warren was the Attorney General in California, okay? He was a very conservative Republican in California, and he was the one that signed the order interning the Japanese Americans during World War II. Also, Hugo Black was a Klansman, okay? He went to the Supreme Court. Both of these jurists, Earl Warren, Hugo Black, I don't think anybody can sit here and say that they did not make some of the most monumental, progressive, forward-looking changes in the law all the way 22 or 3 or 4 years in the future, decades in the future. In fact, we're still now, the court is just reversing some of the things they did. So back on the thing about Thomas, what he did or didn't do, what I'm suggesting is this: who can sit here and say, once this man is in this position, what he's not going to do or going to do into the future? We don't have a crystal ball. We can't say. I'm saying if you're going to put a person in this position, why can't it be a black person of that age with certain I think flexibility, and also who is black and who may have the potential to make some forward-looking decisions in the future. He may not. I don't know. But nobody can say that.
I want to ask this question, then I want to ask Dennis, what is he afraid of that Judge Thomas may overturn? But first, let me say this. Bond is Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny, an organization of which I'm the founding president of. And what we're doing is dealing with the problem of the black man. The main focus is on him because as you look around in the black community, we can see that the black man has failed. He has not been responsible. He has not been able to pull himself up by his bootstrap. And Judge Thomas is a perfect example of doing that we can do it. And he has, again, he has character.
But he can't show
he's
the masses
strong
how
and
to do it.
patient. And I want to ask Joel, how come we don't respect that about him? Why does that seem to be outlaw? You know, why is that called white? I believe that's what a lot of people call white, is when you're able to pull yourself up and do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Why is that a play down?
Well, I think if you look at his principle and his character, and you follow that, we could probably track Thomas in a lot of different ways. We can track him from a legal point of view based on what he has or has not done. We can track him from a sociological point of view in terms of how he has interacted with society and so forth. But we also should look at the person. And if you've really gotten into the history and the development of this man, you will see that he has some very, very strong principles and characters in terms of honesty, in terms of being the look, talking straight, talking simple. And I think we should look at the character, because the people that are sitting in judgment of this man are not really looking at that inner person. And that we need a fresh. We live in a totally different society now. We cannot depend anymore, even as blacks, to be victims. We have a victim mentality. We're going to the white establishment and looking for something, looking as though we deserve something. I think it's time for us to disconnect completely from this whole idea that the white man owes us something. He's suffered enough in terms of feeling guilty about it, and we've suffered enough in terms of receiving things from it. This is over. It has no place in the global society. The Chinese people, if they are the Orientals or the Asian, if they want to study their culture, they go on Saturday and Sunday and do it. But on Monday through Friday, they're learning how to assimilate themselves into the dominant society that they have to earn a living in. And I think we need to focus on that as black people and take our culture and our ethnicity and deal with it on the weekends.
We don't never go study, though. We don't go study our culture.
Deal with your ethnicity on the weekends. But Monday through Friday, focus on how you're going to earn a living and support your family in the real world.
But we don't study our culture.
Let me get one last comment. We're running out of time. Let's start with you, Frederick. We'll go around the room quickly for one last comment about, do you think that he'll be confirmed?
I know that he will. But the only thing I'm scared about is, see, I want our people to get off ghetto too. It's a lot of us individuals making it. I want the masses to make it out of ghetto.
How about you, Dennis? Will he be confirmed?
I could care less.
Will
I'm
he
a
be?
reporter and a former judge. I look at what documents reveal and what people say. He hadn't said anything, and the documents that we've seen on him suggest that we don't know where he's coming from.
How about you, Earl?
He will be confirmed, but nonetheless, we still must continue to struggle. We still must continue to organize. We still must continue to promote our leadership, and we still must continue to build a movement, well, no matter who is sitting on the Supreme Court or any other court.
Joel,
Yes,
will he be confirmed?
Yes, I think he will be confirmed.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a two-part series. So if you missed this Monday night, tune in next Monday night for part 2. Appreciate you being with me. I'll be back next Monday night at 8:30, Channel 37.
Somewhere in the world today, men have got to stand up strong, think the truth about themselves, to understand what went wrong. I know we can find a way. I know we can find